You're hurting your own child, Evelyn. Do you even know what you're holding? That was what the man in the black suit told her before the car chased her off the mountain road. They called it an accident. But the burned trees, the missing files, and the voice whispering through her old radio, none of it felt random. Somewhere in the hills of Mariposa, a secret worth killing for waited to be uncovered. Before we dive in, let me know, what time are you listening to this and where are you? Drop a comment below. We'd love to hear from you. Evelyn woke before dawn, pulling the blanket close. The wind slipped through the kitchen leak and whistled the way it always did. She sat at the table, hand on her stomach, ignoring the pile of unpaid bills beside a half-empty mug. The baby stirred faintly, small proof that something inside her still moved forward. Sleep had been scarce. Trucks rumbled past through the night, shaking the walls. Her little house stood on the edge of Mariposa, where the pavement gave way to dirt. Most days began the same, half-rested, half-ready, just waiting for the hours to pass. She dressed, brushed her hair, and coaxed the sedan to life. It coughed, then caught like an old friend, too weary to argue. At the grocery store, she clocked in, tied her apron, and joined Trish, who talked endlessly, and Ben, who rarely spoke at all. The day passed in the rhythm of barcodes and chatter. "You okay today?" Trish asked. "Fine enough." A jar shattered by the freezer aisle. Evelyn bent to sweep it up, her back tightening. "You should be home resting," Trish whispered. "Rest doesn't pay bills," she said, dumping the shards. By lunch, the manager summoned them to the back. The hum of the fluorescent lights filled the pause before his words. "Evelyn, you've missed shifts. With your condition, we think it's best to cut your hours." She nodded. "I understand." "Just until things settle," he added, pretending that helped. Trish offered a weak smile as they walked out. "Maybe it's for the best." Evelyn said nothing. The sun hit her face hard, too bright, too heavy. The word best had lost its meaning long ago. Her car died 2 miles down the road. She gripped the steering wheel and let out a dry laugh. The phone had no signal. When she lifted the hood, she only stared at the mess of metal, pretending she knew what to do. A pickup slowed beside her. The driver leaned out, gray beard, kind eyes. "Need help? It just stopped." He smiled. "Jonas Reed. Been years, Evelyn Hart. Thought you'd moved away." "Almost did." He adjusted a wire, tapped something, and the engine turned over. "Still stubborn," he said. "So's the car," she replied. He grinned. "Come by my shop sometime. Still fixing old radios. Not many folks bother to anymore. People don't fix much these days. Sometimes all a broken thing needs is someone patient enough to listen to its noise." The words followed her the rest of the drive. Patience wasn't a luxury she had, but the idea of someone listening, really listening, stuck in her mind. At home, she sat at the table again, the bills waiting. She tore open envelopes until the numbers blurred. The radio crackled from the counter. Abandoned storage units. 1 day only. Fresno outskirts. Cash only. You never know what treasures you'll find. She let the words drift. A mail truck passed, scattering dust along the porch. Her coffee had gone cold. While rinsing dishes, she caught her reflection. Tired face, hair pulled too tight, the sort of look that made people guess she was older than she was. Jonas's words came back, someone patient enough to listen. Maybe that was what she'd been missing. Later, she drove to town for groceries. A notice taped to a door caught her eye. Estate storage clearance. Deceased owner, Lowell Family Holdings. She knew the name. Everyone did. The Lowells owned half the county mines, mills, and lawyers, stacked high enough to block out the sun. She read the paper twice, one hand resting on her belly. The baby pressed back as if to remind her she was still alive. A voice startled her. "Thinking of bidding." It was the clerk locking up for the day. "Just curious." He smirked. "Curiosity costs. So does everything else," she said. When he left, she peeled the notice from the door and folded it into her pocket. Not a plan, just a thought she couldn't throw away. Back home, she laid it beside the bills. The wind had quieted. She opened her laptop, found the auction listing, and typed her name. The cursor blinked beside the confirmation box. She hesitated, then pressed enter. The screen refreshed, registration complete. She closed the lid, the hum of the refrigerator filling the room. Jonas's words returned again, faint but steady. How sometimes fixing a broken thing began by paying attention to its noise. The next shift dragged. Evelyn stood behind the counter, scanning groceries, every beep stretching the clock. The manager gathered them by the stock shelves, voice smooth and distant. Seasonal adjustments, he said. His gaze stopped on her. With your health, maybe it's best you take some time off, as if her pregnancy were an inconvenience. She nodded. If that's what you think. Trish glanced over, half pity, half relief it wasn't her. No one spoke. The hum of the soda cooler filled the space until everyone drifted back to work. At the time clock, Evelyn swiped her ID twice before it worked. The small slip in her hand felt heavier than paper should. She stepped across the parking lot holding her jacket closed. A truck honked when she crossed its path. The driver waved without looking back. Her car refused to start. She tried again, muttering under her breath. The engine stuttered, then died. A short, humorless laugh slipped out. She leaned against the door, staring at the dull stretch of gray above. A voice called her name. Jonas's pickup pulled over, the same one from years ago. Bad luck found you again, he said. I guess it missed me. He lifted the hood, his movements calm, familiar. Still driving this wreck? It gets me around. Not today. He tapped the battery, twisted a wire, and the car rumbled back to life. Machines don't care about timing, he said. Neither do people. He wiped his hands. Some of us try. He handed her a card. If you need a break, my shop's on Cedar. I still fix radios. I remember. You should rest. Rest doesn't fix much. He nodded. Sometimes it helps you think. She thanked him and watched the truck fade down the road. The drive home took longer. Rain tapped softly against the windshield, blurring the same old signs and empty diner. Everything felt used up, like a song that wouldn't stop. She hung her coat, sank into the chair, and stared at yesterday's mail. Halfway through tearing an envelope, she stopped. What difference would it make? Her phone buzzed. Fresno storage auction. New listings posted. She frowned, remembering the auction notice she'd seen, then noticed Jonas's card tucked under the wiper earlier that day. His note read, "You've always been braver than you think." Brave wasn't the word she'd use for someone barely holding on. Still, curiosity lingered. She opened the link. Lists of storage units scrolled by furniture, tools, antiques. Near the bottom, one line stood out: estate, Lowell family holdings, unclaimed assets, sealed inventory. The bid was low. The Lowell name stirred memory. A billionaire without heirs, rumors of buried fortune in the Sierra foothills. She locked her phone, but the thought clung. Something new when everything else felt finished. Thunder rolled far away. She filled a glass, watching the water tremble. The baby shifted, steady, patient. She reopened the site. The bid was still low. Her finger hovered. "You can't be serious," she murmured and pressed confirm. Bid placed successfully. Her breath caught. Stillness followed, not relief, not joy, just the sense that something inside her had shifted. Maybe it wasn't about winning. Maybe it was about doing something beyond survival. The auction yard smelled of dust and oil. Trucks lined the gravel lot, doors slamming as bidders arrived with clipboards and cups in hand. Evelyn parked near the back registration slip, trembling between her fingers. A man in a red cap barked directions, waving everyone toward the storage units. "Keep it quick, folks. No window shopping." His tone had the rhythm of habit, worn and impatient. She followed the crowd, purse pressed to her stomach. People moved with a mix of greed and routine, their laughter sharp and hollow. A woman nearby muttered, "Half this junk ends up on Craigslist by sunset." Jonas appeared beside her, thermos in hand. "Didn't expect to see you here." I could say the same. Helping a friend haul whatever junk he buys. People get strange when they think luck's for sale. The auctioneer's hammer began its rhythm. Doors rolled open, revealing piles of forgotten lives, boxes, furniture, scraps of memory. Evelyn barely heard the shouting. Everything blurred into noise and motion. Then came her lot. The door screeched open. Dust rose in a slow cloud. Unmarked crates, a rolled carpet, and a wooden chest sat stacked in the corner. Opening at 50, the auctioneer called. No answer. 40. Her hand lifted before she knew why. 40 to the lady in blue. Sold. Jonas raised a brow. "You sure know how to pick trouble." "I didn't mean to. That's how it starts." They waited for the crowd to thin, then lifted the chest. The hinges groaned cedar, mixing with the scent of old paper. Evelyn stepped back as Jonas unfastened a rolled map tied with leather. Ink traced valleys and ridges. In the corner, faded words read, "Sierra Claim 1942. Looks like mining coordinates, he murmured. Worth anything could be, but value doesn't always mean gold. She gave a dry laugh. You sound like someone who watches too many mystery shows. He didn't smile. This name, Lowell. Her pulse quickened. Like the listing, same one he said. They loaded the chest into her car. Dust clung to her sleeves. Jonas scribbled his number on a scrap. If this causes trouble, call me. Why would it? Because some things don't like being forgotten. The drive home was silent, the chest creaking with each bump. She left it near the kitchen table, her back aching but satisfied by the small weight of action. Later, she tried calling her cousin to offer leftover furniture. Voicemail answered. She turned on the radio to fill the space. A host spoke about local events, then mentioned a rumor the Lowell fortune hidden in the hills decades ago. Evelyn froze, hand on the dial, but the program cut to commercials. Sleep didn't come easily. Wind scraped the siding, her mind circling back to the map and Jonas's wary tone. The name Lowell Sr. lingered in her thoughts, firm handwriting, deliberate strokes. A faint tapping came from the porch. She told herself it was a branch, yet the sound persisted uneven. Pulling the blanket close, she stood and checked. The swing moved gently, nothing else. Still, the house felt altered. By dawn, unease clung to her like damp air. She made coffee and unfolded the map. The lines looked clearer somehow. A small X marked a ridge near the northern highway. She traced it with her finger. Her phone buzzed an unknown number. Leave it alone. No name, no explanation. The cup slipped from her hand, shattering. She stood over the mess, breath shallow. The screen still glowed. She typed a reply, then deleted it. Grabbing her jacket, she drove to Jonas's shop. The sign, Reed's Radio Repair, hung crooked, paint nearly gone. Shelves overflowed with radios that hadn't played in years. Jonas looked up from the bench. You look like hell. Someone texted me, she said, passing the phone. He read it, jaw tightening. That's no accident. I thought it was just a map. Nothing's just anything with the Lowells. What do I do? Keep breathing. Don't let fear decide for you. The old radio crackled, static, curling through the room like breath. Evelyn rubbed her arms uneasy. From the doorway drifted a faint trace of storm and metal. By morning, her porch steps were muddy. A pair of prints led halfway across and stopped. No mail in the box, just a blank scrap of paper fluttering. She crumpled it, tossed it aside, pretending it meant nothing. At the radio shop, Jonas was hunched over a receiver. He didn't look surprised. Didn't sleep, did you? Not much. Someone came around last night. Probably kids. Kids don't wear boots that big. He paused, wiping his hands. You still have that map hidden? Hide it better. You think this is about that I think the Lowells hate loose ends? She perched on the counter, stretching her back. You say their name like a curse. Maybe it is. Ever hear of Grant Lowell? No. He's their lawyer. Keeps quiet until he wants something. If he believes you've got it, he won't knock first. That sounds paranoid. So does locking your door 3 times, he replied softly. But you did, didn't you? She didn't answer. The radio buzzed, suddenly static, then a thin voice under it. Jonas adjusted the dial. The noise sharpened, slow breathing close to a microphone. Then a man's whisper, her name. He yanked the plug. Interference, he muttered, though his hands shook. Evelyn crossed her arms. Interference doesn't know names. He stayed silent. When she got home, mud streaked her steps again. The newspaper lay by the door. Lowell Corporation faces scrutiny over missing assets. A photo showed Grant Lowell outside a courthouse, calm, polished, deliberate. Something about his expression made her stomach tighten. The phone rang. No ID. She answered. Only faint static, then a click like someone deciding to listen instead of speak. She unplugged the line. That evening, Jonas showed up uninvited. You shouldn't stay here alone, he said, stepping in. If they're watching, they'll try again. Who's they, Jonas? The ones who think you took what's theirs. I found a map, not a fortune. Paper can ruin people, he said. Depends what's written on it. She leaned against the chair, weary. I just want peace. Peace costs, he replied, eyeing the chest by the table. Rain started against the roof, steady and soft. Jonas switched on a small radio. He'd brought the static humming, low between them. You could leave town, he suggested. I can't even afford to fill the tank. He said nothing more, just adjusted the dial. his quiet focus calming her more than words. When he stood, he said, "If anything happens, call me. And if it's just in my head, then I'll tell you. But I doubt it is." After Jonas left, she washed their cups. The radio hummed faintly until a burst of static made her turn. That same whisper returned softer this time, almost kind, then faded. A letter arrived folded twice between a flyer and a bill. The envelope bore a pale crest, Lowell and Associates Legal Division. The first line made her read it 3 times. "We request the immediate return of all property belonging to the estate of Mr. Charles Lowell, discovered in the purchased storage unit registered under your name." Her stomach tightened. Words like confidential materials and legal action pressed against her chest. She folded the letter, slid it under unpaid bills as if hiding it might dull its weight. The phone buzzed. Trish from the store asked if she'd be back next week. "No," Evelyn answered, surprised by how foreign the word sounded. By afternoon, clouds gathered. She went to Jonas's shop with the letter tucked in her purse. He was bent over a small radio, the smell of solder heavy in the air. Something new. She placed the envelope on his workbench. It came today. He scanned it, jaw tightening. Grant Lowell's signature. "Didn't take long. I didn't steal anything. They don't need truth, just paperwork." Her pulse quickened. "What do I do?" "Nothing yet. Keep the map hidden. Don't talk. They have my address, that's why you don't panic. They want fear first." She let out a shaky breath. "Then they're winning." Jonas wiped his hands. "If you run, they'll chase. If you act calm, they'll wonder what you really know." "I can't fake calm, then fake the pretending." She sat beside the workbench, eyes on the disassembled radio. "You ever wish you hadn't stepped into something always? But worse things happen when no one does." Her phone rang again, unknown number. She ignored it. The next call came seconds later, then again. On the third, she answered. No words, just breathing. "Who is this?" Her voice cracked. The line clicked dead. Jonas took the phone, frown. "They're watching, testing how far they can push. I should call the police. They won't help. Lowells have friends everywhere." Her last bit of faith in anyone broke. That evening, her gate leaned open. The house felt wrong. Dust covered the table except a clean circle where the chest had been. She ran to it. The lid gaped open. The map was gone. Drawers in the hallway stood half open, nothing stolen except the one thing that mattered. She sat pressing her palms together until they ached. Jonas arrived minutes later. No sign of forced entry, he said. So they had a key. Or they didn't need one. He crouched by the chest, looked up. They took the original. "You still have the copy?" "Yes." She pulled an envelope from a drawer. "Good. I'll keep it." "Why you? Because they'll come next for you?" She laughed sharply. "You say that like it's normal. For them it is." Thunder rolled. Jonas peered toward the driveway. A dark sedan idled across the street, engine running. "Stay away from the front." Her pulse hammered. "Jonas, I can't live like this." "I know. But you can't outlast it." He handed her his spare keys. "If anything happens, come to the shop. I'll hear the knock." After he left, she moved through the house, locking doors twice. On the counter sat a business card, Grant Lowell, attorney at law. No note, just the card. She tore it to pieces, threw it away, then dug it out and tore it smaller. The act gave no relief, but it filled her hands. A text appeared. "Don't make this harder than it has to be." Her vision blurred. She leaned on the counter, fighting for air. The radio hissed static, shifting into faint music. Jonas's recorded voice bled through. "Sometimes listening to the noise helps you understand what's broken." Jonas called early. "I found something about the map," he said. "You should come by." Evelyn dressed slowly, careful with each movement. Fog hung low over the hills as she drove toward Hensley Lake, one hand on her stomach, the other gripping the wheel. At the shop, Jonas had cleared the counter. Mining records and a cold mug sat beside a photocopy marked in pen. "Here, the coordinates match a claim from 1942, he said. "A small mine that closed after a cave-in, 3 dead, 1, a Lowell contractor. So it's real. Looks that way." He rubbed his temple. "If that map leads there, it's not just gold. It's something the Lowells buried for a reason." She leaned closer. "Then we tell someone. Without proof, they'll call you unstable. Power's louder than truth." "Then what's the point?" "Knowing changes you," he said. She stared at the clock, it's ticking too loud. I can't keep waiting for someone to break in again. You could sell the map. Disappear. Start over. You think I'm like them? No, I think you're tired. The words landed like truth she didn't want to hear. By noon, she was on the road toward the ridge, Jonas following at a distance. The path narrowed into dirt scattered with branches. Her nerves pulled tighter with each turn. In the mirror, a black car appeared, same model from her street. It lingered behind, matching speed. Jonas honked once, a warning. She pressed the gas. The car behind followed. Gravel spat under her tires as the ridge curved. The drop beside her blurred past. Jonas flashed his headlights, signaling something she couldn't read. The car drew closer, bumper grazing hers. Metal shrieked. She jerked the wheel, the car fishtailing. Jonas's voice echoed in her memory. Breathe. Another hit spun her sideways. She fought the steering, but it slipped free. The guardrail came fast. The crash sent the car sliding down the slope until it stopped against brush. Smoke curled from the hood. The world went still. Her first thought was the baby. She pressed her palm to her stomach, relief flooding when she felt movement. Tears came soundless. A knock startled her. Jonas pried the door open. You're okay. Come on. Her legs barely held. He lifted her enough to guide her toward his truck. The wrecked car behind them looked small, bent in on itself. In the truck, she whispered, They tried to kill me. Jonas didn't deny it. At the base of the hill, a ranger's vehicle stopped. The officer jotted half-hearted notes. Road's tricky, he said. Could have been an accident. Jonas thanked him curtly. Evelyn said nothing. Back in town, Jonas brought her to the small apartment behind his shop. The place smelled faintly of metal and soap. He draped a blanket over her shoulders. Stay here a while. I can't. You shouldn't be alone. She didn't argue. Her body gave in to exhaustion. Jonas poured her water, waited until she drank, then said, That wasn't random. They knew. You think it was Grant Lowell? Men like him don't show up. They send reminders. She stared at the street lamp flickering weakly over the empty road. Everything looked too calm, like the world had moved on without noticing. Jonas leaned back. You have to choose, bury it and let them win, or keep going. I just want my life back. Then fight for it. Evelyn woke to the scent of disinfectant and a steady beat beside her. The ceiling was too white, the sheets too stiff. A nurse adjusted the IV. You're lucky, she said. Could have been worse. Her throat burned. The baby stable. Rest. Jonas entered, coat damp, eyes worn. You scared me, he said, pulling up a chair. They found you half a mile down the slope. The car's gone. Gone. Probably towed before the ranger filed it. Paperwork will stall. Convenient. He nodded. That's their style, clean up, then explain. The nurse returned. Mild concussion, no driving. Evelyn forced a smile. That won't be a problem. Jonas drove her to his apartment after discharge. The back room had been cleared, boxes of wires, pushed aside, a cot laid out. He handed her a folded blanket. Stay here till we sort this out. I don't want to be trouble. You won't be. That night passed in fragments, half dreams, muffled street sounds, her body tensing at every noise. She woke early to find Jonas at his desk, turning a radio dial. Static filled the room like breath. Can't sleep either, he asked. Not since the crash. He gestured to a chair. Sit. Listening helps. To what? The noise. Sometimes it's clearer than silence. The static shifted, catching a faint sermon warped by distance. A preacher spoke of forgiveness. She let the sound steady her, not peace exactly, just pause. Later they spread papers across the desk. Jonas pointed to one. This is the site you nearly reached. Lowell's father owned it, a mining claim from 42. Closed after a cave-in that killed 3 men. Records list them as contractors, but there's no payroll. So they were covered up. He nodded. And if they had families, they disappeared too. That's what the map ties together. Why would a billionaire care after decades? Because wealth depends on silence. She folded the pages slowly. So now I'm holding their secret. Not the secret, he said. The choice. Later she went to the corner store. The cashier recognized her from a news piece about the crash. Lucky to be alive, he said while bagging her bread. Guess so. Across the street, a gray sedan idled. She kept walking. By the time she reached Jonas's building, it was gone. He was fixing a broken radio. You okay, fine. Do you think they're still watching? I'd bet on it. How do you live with that? You stop pretending safety, lass, he said. Then pay attention to what still matters. Like what people who tell you the truth even when you don't want it. That night they tidied the workshop. The radio played old country songs soft as breathing. For a moment it felt ordinary, two people sorting screws talking about nothing. Jonas told her about his first case, a missing dog that led to stolen cars. She laughed raw and planned. He looked up. You needed that? Maybe, but it won't last. It doesn't have to. Just long enough to remind you're still here. She folded her rag eyes on him. How do you stay so calm, age? And mistakes. As they locked up, she caught her reflection in the glass, older, steadier, unfamiliar. She left the radio on low. The hum steadied her breathing. Half asleep, she caught a man's voice beneath the static, measured, deliberate. You can't hide forever? Her hand twitched toward the switch but stopped. The voice faded back into music. She lay still, unsure if she'd imagined it. Through the thin wall, Jonas shifted on his cot. His voice drifted softly, more to himself. Whatever comes next, we'll handle it. The radio's hum filled the room, something between comfort and warning. Jonas brewed coffee while Evelyn sat at the table, staring at the radio, as if waiting for it to speak again. The low hum filled the room, steady and unending. Neither had slept much. The tension hung thick as the steam curling from their cups. He placed one before her. Drink. You need strength more than answers. She wrapped both hands around it, but didn't lift. Every time I close my eyes, I hear that voice. Fear leaves echoes, Jonas said. It's what it does best. She tried a weak smile. That your detective wisdom talking? Something like that. Traffic began to hum through town. The sound of cars, dogs, and daily movement felt like a rhythm she no longer belonged to. Jonas unfolded a newer map, spreading it across the table. Same ridge, he said. Updated records. This area's been sealed off for decades, called unstable. He tapped one spot. That's where they buried it, whatever it is. Evelyn frowned. If it's hidden, why keep coming after me? I'm nobody. That's why he replied. People overlook nobodies until they find something that matters. She traced the road near Hensley Lake, the place she'd nearly died. You think Grant Lowell sent those men? He sent a message, Jonas said. If we don't act first, there won't be anyone left to hear it. Her exhaustion deepened. Act how? Expose the truth. Make it public before they bury it again. I can't fight a man like that. I can't even pay rent. Jonas leaned back. Then use what they underestimate. You've got nothing left to lose. The words unsettled her. She paced toward the glass, watching rain streak down. Even if we find proof, who'll believe us? Belief doesn't matter. Evidence does. And when they come again, he didn't respond. Jonas began packing tools and notebooks. She helped movements slow. Her gaze kept drifting toward the street, half expecting that black sedan. When the phone rang, both froze. He answered, tone flat. Reed's repairs. A pause. No, she's not available. He hung up. Same voice as before. Evelyn sat back. They're not even pretending anymore. They want you to panic. Then maybe I should stop being scared. Jonas studied her, then nodded once. Then let's finish this. They left for the ridge by afternoon. Rain eased but left the road slick. Jonas drove, steady eyes scanning the empty stretch ahead. Halfway up, the truck began to rattle. We'll walk from here, he said, parking near a stand of pines. The smell of wet soil rose around them. Mud clung to their shoes as they climbed. Evelyn followed, close hand on her belly. The path narrowed before opening to a clearing where broken boards jutted from the earth remnants of a collapsed site. Jonas brushed away debris. Metal glinted beneath. Old elevator shaft, he murmured. This was part of the mine. So it's real and buried. Under fallen beams, a rusted box sat wedged in dirt. Jonas pried it open with a screwdriver. Inside were sealed papers, dry despite the years. Receipts, letters, a ledger, stamped Lowell Holdings, 1942. Evelyn unfolded one. Payments to families crossed out. These men died here. Jonas pointed to a column. No insurance filings. They called it illegal work to avoid questions. A sharp crack broke from the trees. Jonas froze. We're not alone. Her breath hitched. What do we do? He gathered the papers fast, stuffing them into his jacket. Move! They headed for the path, trying not to run. Another snap came closer. Evelyn's chest tightened. She could feel eyes following them. Jonas unlocked the truck, pushed her in. Don't look back. Gravel sprayed as they sped downhill. They didn't speak until the highway appeared. Rain thickened again. Jonas exhaled hard. We've got enough. Evelyn stared ahead. You think it'll matter? It has to. At a gas stop, he filled the tank while she waited, hand over the folder in his jacket. When he returned, she asked, what if they already know? Then they'll come sooner. The thought chilled her, but retreat was no longer an option. Mariposa's lights emerged through the mist, small and fragile. What once felt safe now looked like a stage waiting for the next blow. Before they reached the shop, she said, let me keep the documents tonight. It's safer with me. I need to read them, to understand. He studied her, then handed them over. Careful. Knowledge carries its own weight. She gripped the folder close. As they parked, thunder rolled faintly like a warning, still traveling through the hills. Jonas turned off the engine. Get some rest. The folder lay open on her lap, papers spread across the table. She'd read until the words blurred. Halfway through the ledger, the handwriting shifted, neat at first, then frantic. Receipts for equipment replacement, payment slips, mismatched signatures. At the bottom, 3 names were crossed out in thick ink, as if erasing them might erase what happened. Jonas came in with 2 cups of coffee, sleeves rolled up. You've been up all night, she nodded. It's worse than I thought. They didn't just hide the accident, they used it. How they funneled company money through the mine's insurance, turned the deaths into cover for laundering. He rubbed his jaw. If that's true, it could destroy them. It's true, she said, pushing a letter toward him. Lowell's father thanked a state official for ensuring the closure remains permanent. Signed and dated. Jonas read it, his face tightening. That's proof. Solid proof. Relief tangled with fear in her chest. So what do we do? Find someone who can't be bought? Does that exist? Maybe. A journalist I used to work with. She's tough. She watched him pace. What if they reach us first? We'll make copies. Hide them. They already know too much. Jonas rested a hand on her shoulder. Then stop giving them what they want. A knock cut him off 2 slow raps. Jonas signaled her to stay back and cracked the door. A delivery man stood with a brown parcel. Package for Ms. Hart. From who, she asked. Doesn't say. Jonas shut the door quickly. Evelyn peeled the tape off the box, hands trembling. Inside was an old radio and a note tune-in. We're closer than you think. Jonas muttered, they're playing with you. The radio had no cord or battery slot, just a switch. He set it aside, but she couldn't stop staring. Later, while Jonas went to make copies, she stayed behind. Curiosity overrode caution. She flicked the switch. Static. Then faint music. A calm voice followed one she knew too well. You're making this harder than it needs to be, Evelyn. Her throat locked. Grant. You've got something that doesn't belong to you. Bring it to me and this ends. No one has to get hurt. She shut it off and backed away. Jonas returned minutes later, catching her pale face. What happened? He spoke to me. Jonas examined the radio. Short-range transmitter. Someone nearby. Nearby, he checked the street. They're close. Her pulse spiked. We have to go. Not yet. If we bolt now, we lose control. I sent the copies already. They'll arrive before he knows. Evelyn gripped the table. You think that'll stop him? No, but it'll push him to make mistakes. Night came heavy. Every creak felt loaded. Near midnight, Jonas tapped on her door. They're moving. We have to leave. She grabbed her bag and followed him through the back exit. Rain slicked the alley. They cut through to the truck parked behind the hardware store. Headlights flashed at the end of the street, fast, deliberate. Jonas swore. Get in! The truck fishtailed onto the road. Evelyn clutched the folder tight. We're the courthouse. Public ground, they won't risk a scene. The drive stretched long. Wind whipped across the windshield. A dark SUV appeared behind, closing fast. They're gaining, she said. I know. When courthouse lights emerged ahead, Jonas pulled to the curb. Go, hand the papers to the clerk. I'll draw them off. She hesitated. No. Go. She ran up the slick steps, breath ragged. A guard turned as she burst through the door. Ma'am, are you all right? Before she could answer, a crash split the air, metal colliding hard. The guard looked out. Evelyn followed, heart sinking. Jonas's truck had been hit broadside, its frame bent, smoke curling from the hood. The SUV reversed, headlights glaring, then sped away. She ran back down the folder, still pressed to her side. Jonas was slumped forward, barely conscious. "Told you." "They get desperate," he rasped. "Don't talk," she said, gripping his hand. "Help's coming." He coughed, a thin smile flickering. "Don't let them take it from you." The hospital smelled of bleach and burnt coffee. Evelyn sat in the corridor, hands wrapped around a paper cup gone cold. Nurses passed, their low voices slicing through the hum in her chest. She hadn't slept since the crash. Every blink replayed Jonas's truck crushed under the storm. A doctor appeared, gray hair, tired eyes. "He's stable. Broken ribs, concussion, but lucky." The words landed slow, almost too heavy to believe. "Can I see him briefly? He needs rest." Jonas looked smaller in the bed, arm and a sling oxygen tube beneath his nose. The steady beep of the monitor filled the room. He turned slightly when she stepped close. "You made it," he murmured. "So did you." "Barely." "How's the baby?" "Fine." "Scared, maybe. Like me." "You've got the documents." She touched her bag. "Here." The clerk certified the copies before the police came. "One's filed at the county office." He nodded, eyes closing. "Good. Then it's done." She sat beside him. "They'll come again." "Maybe. But truth's harder to bury once it's public." "I don't want to run anymore." "Then don't," he said softly. "Make them do the running." The nurse entered, checking vitals, breaking the moment. Evelyn pressed his hand once, then left. The world looked too ordinary for what she carried. Across the lot, a black sedan idled, no plates, driver in sunglasses. She turned down another path, hand tight on her bag strap. At the corner, she found a payphone. The glass door stuck as she stepped in. She dialed the number Jonas had given her. After 2 rings, a woman answered. "Yeah, is this Maggie Rhodes, who's asking Evelyn Hart? Jonas Reed said you handle stories people try to bury." A pause. "You got something worth losing sleep over." "I have proof, Lowell family fraud deaths cover-ups." "Then you called right." "Drop copies at the bus station locker 4B. Leave the key behind the bench on platform 2. I'll find it." The line cut. Evelyn slipped into the midday crowd. The sedan followed from a distance. Her reflection in a storefront showed someone pale, tired, but steady. For once, she didn't feel powerless. At the bus station, she rented a locker, slid the envelope in, and taped the key where Maggie said. Her pulse raced, but she kept moving. When she stepped out, the sedan was gone. 3 blocks later, she sat on a low wall near a laundromat, legs trembling. A mother wrangled 2 children into coats, laughing. The sound steadied her more than she expected. Her phone buzzed. "We know what you did. This won't end well." She deleted it. By evening, she was back at the hospital. Jonas slept, breathing even. She left a note on his bedside. "Maggie has it. It's out now." She stepped into the street. Puddles reflected streetlights, the world rippling in motion. A payphone near the entrance rang once. She froze. It rang again. On the third, she answered. "You think this changes anything?" Grant Lowell's voice was calm, deliberate. "You've made a dangerous mistake. I could have protected you." She stayed silent. "You're not built for this fight. Think of your child. Walk away and this disappears." Her grip tightened on the receiver. "You built your world on people forgetting. That ends tonight." She hung up. The line hummed a moment before she stepped away. Across the street, 2 men in suits watched from the corner. She didn't run, just walked toward the main road. At a diner, she ordered soup she didn't taste and wrote Maggie's name on a napkin in case something happened to her. A truck driver beside her asked, "Rough day, long one?" She said. He nodded. "Ain't they all?" The radio behind the counter buzzed with local news. "Lowell Industries under federal review," the anchor read. "Documents reveal decades of fraud and unreported deaths." Evelyn froze, spoon midair. The sound blurred, then cleared again. She paid, left a few extra dollars, and stepped outside. The street smelled faintly of wet asphalt. Sirens wailed somewhere distant. She didn't wait to know why. At the bus stop, relief mingled with exhaustion. The truth was moving on its own, now no longer hers to protect. The newspaper hit the porch before dawn. Evelyn didn't need to read it. The headline stretched across the front: Lowell Empire under investigation for fraud and obstruction. She sat on the steps, robe loose, coffee cooling beside her knee. The words looked distant, as if printed for someone else's life. Jonas called after 7, voice rough but steady. "You've seen it." "Yeah, it's spreading fast. Investigators took the files Maggie leaked. They're naming names, Grant included." Her stomach tightened. "So it's not over." "No," he said, but now the noise is on their side of the fence. She wanted to believe that, though the pause between them felt too familiar. A knock came, soft, deliberate. She froze, setting the mug down. "Someone's here," she whispered. Jonas's tone sharpened. "Stay on the line." Through the curtain, a man in a gray suit waited on the porch, briefcase in hand, face calm in that practiced way power wears. "It's him," she breathed. "Grant." "Yes. Don't open it. I'm coming." But Grant's voice carried through the door, low and controlled. "Ms. Hart, I think it's time we stop chasing ghosts." "Go away," she said. "You've done what you came to do. The story's out. But you don't understand what happens next. The vultures will devour everything, including you. I don't owe you anything." "You owe me perspective," he said. "That child you carry, do you want them growing up hunted by other people's truths?" Her voice cracked. "You killed people to build your name. Don't pretend care now." He sighed, almost weary. "The world runs on compromise, not justice. You'll see." Jonas's truck turned the corner. Grant looked toward the sound, then back at the door. "Disappear, Ms. Hart. I won't come again." He left before Jonas parked. When Jonas entered, she still stood frozen. "You all right? He told me to disappear." "That's fear talking. I don't feel victorious." "Truth doesn't feel like victory," he said. "It just feels like work." They spent hours on calls, Maggie investigator statements. Words blurred together. The baby kicked once, grounding her. By late afternoon, the sky dimmed. Jonas insisted on staying. "You shouldn't be alone. Grant's type doesn't lose easy." Evelyn sat on the couch, newspaper open. "Think he'll walk free, maybe for a while?" "Not forever." She gave a faint smile. "Forever's a word men like him made up." Jonas chuckled. "You're learning." Thunder rumbled. He checked the street. "They'll turn on each other soon." "Power eats itself." She closed her eyes. "Good enough for me." They ate soup straight from the pot, trading small jokes. Jonas talked about reopening the shop. She said maybe she'd work at the library. He nodded as if believing it. At 8, he stood. "You'll call if anything feels off, promise." After he left, she locked the door and checked it twice. Rain tapped steady on the roof. The newspaper lay on the table, ink smudged where her fingers had touched. Her phone buzzed. "He's denying everything." "But we've got recordings." "You did good, Evelyn. Rest while you can." "Maggie." She typed "thank you" and set the phone down. She thought about the miners' names the family's forgotten, the years it took for truth to surface. Maybe some stories had to hurt before they healed. A car door thudded faintly. She rose, pulse quickening. Headlights glowed in the drive, a police cruiser. 2 officers stepped out. "Ms. Hart," one called. She opened the door. "What is it? Grant Lowell's car was found off County Road 12. Looks like he lost control in the storm." Her breath hitched. "Is he gone?" "No passengers. They left soon after." She leaned against the door, staring blankly. The rain didn't stop. The town moved slower after Grant's death. Streets stayed half-flooded. Shop windows fogged, people trading versions of how it happened. Some said he'd been drunk. Others said guilt caught up. Evelyn didn't add her own theory. She only wanted stillness. Jonas arrived with groceries. "You didn't sleep," he said. "I didn't." He unpacked bread, canned soup, and filters. "Reporters will circle again soon. Be ready." "For what?" "For when people realize the villain's gone and the story still needs someone to fill the space. They'll want me to talk. They'll want you to perform," he said, lighting the stove. She traced slow circles on the table. "You think it's over. For him, maybe. Not for the people he broke. I don't know if I should feel relieved or sorry." "You don't have to feel anything. Some things just end." The soup was too salty, but it steadied her. When Jonas cleaned up, he said he'd check on Maggie's updates. "You stay here," he told her. "Let your body catch up to your mind." After he left, the house felt still. She stood at the glass, rain gone but haze clinging to the hills. It reminded her of the days after buying the storage unit, how simple life had seemed then. The phone rang. Maggie's name flashed on the screen. "Hey," Maggie said. "Holding up, I don't know. Feels unreal. It always does. Listen before it breaks, your story's gone national. The state's opening a full inquiry. You might be called to testify." Testify? Evelyn's throat tightened. "No one's ever ready." "You did the right thing. Don't let anyone twist that. Does it matter now that he's gone?" "Truth matters on its own," Maggie said, "even when the guilty don't hear it." After they hung up, Evelyn stared at the silent phone. Doing the right thing always seemed to leave this kind of emptiness behind. She filled the day with small motions, tea, sweeping, folding laundry. Each chore felt like reclaiming ground. Reaching into the closet for the broom, she found the folded map. She thought of burning it, then tucked it into a drawer. Some things didn't need to vanish, just rest. By dusk, sunlight broke through the clouds. She stepped out, breathing in the damp scent. Across the street, Mrs. Carter waved from her porch. "Heard the news," she called. "You were brave, honey." Evelyn smiled faintly. "I was scared the whole time." "That's what makes it brave," the woman said, turning back to her plants. The words stayed. She sat on the steps, hand over her belly, as the baby shifted. Life kept moving whether she was ready or not. Jonas returned before dark. "Maggie called me. They want an interview next week. I don't want it." He studied her. "You're allowed to want peace, but silence leaves space for noise. Maybe the noise is better than being the face of someone else's tragedy." "You're not their tragedy," he said. "You're proof they can't erase everything." Wind moved through the trees. "I just want ordinary days again." "You will," he said. "But ordinary comes slow after storms." They watched the light fade until crickets began to sing. When Jonas stood to go, he touched her shoulder. "I'll check in tomorrow." "Thanks," she said. She stayed out as the streetlights came on. Somewhere down the block, a child laughed, light unguarded. The radio found a clear station. The host mentioned storms, then said state investigators confirm Lowell holdings will be dissolved pending court review. The case has drawn national attention thanks to one woman's persistence. Evelyn sipped her coffee. "Anonymous," she muttered. "That's one word for it." The phone rang around 8. "Morning hero," Maggie said. "Don't call me that. Too late. The paper already did. I didn't ask for any of this." "Sometimes stories pick people," Maggie said. "Before you fade into peace and teacups, the attorney wants to meet you off the record. Tomorrow, courthouse steps." "I don't need thanks. He says he owes it to you." After the call, she sat a long while staring at the space above the counter. Gratitude from the law felt out of place in her life. Jonas stopped by later, walking steadier. "You look better," he said. "Feels strange hearing that." Strange but true. He set a small wrapped package on the table. "Found this at an estate sale." It was a brass music box, dented but lovely. When she wound it, the tune stumbled, then found its rhythm. "It's broken," she said. "So are most things worth keeping," he replied. They talked about ordinary things, the weather, his shop, a neighbor's noisy dog. Conversation came easy now. Before leaving, he nodded toward the shoebox under the counter. "You keeping all that for now? Don't let it define you." "I won't," she said, though she wasn't sure. The next day, she drove to the courthouse. Reporters crowded the curb mics, flashing under gray light. Evelyn parked 2 blocks away and walked through shallow puddles. A tall woman with silver hair met her by the steps. "Ms. Hart," the attorney said. "You did something good. It matters." Evelyn nodded. "Feels strange hearing that." "Justice always does," the woman said. "The world never knows how to hold it." They spoke briefly about the case, the charges, the settlements, the memorial fund. Before leaving, the attorney handed her a sealed envelope. No reporters, just acknowledgement. Evelyn didn't open it. "Thank you." Walking back, she saw flowers at a new plaque, in memory of those lost at the Sierra Claim, 1942. Her hand rested on the stone. The scent of lilies and wet earth lingered. A man nearby held his cap. "My grandfather worked that mine," he said. "We never knew the truth till now. I'm sorry it took so long." He nodded. Better late than never. When she got home, she placed the envelope beside the shoebox. The music box sat nearby, waiting. She made stew and bread ate while dusk settled. Across the street, children played with umbrellas, chasing puddles. Their laughter rose and fell with the wind. Jonas called. She told him about the plaque, the attorney, the families. You did good, he said. Maybe she whispered. Maybe it was just time. After the call, she wound the music box again. The melody stuttered, then held steady. She let it play while washing dishes, its uneven tune mingling with the drip of the faucet. Days slipped without rhythm. Evelyn filled them with chores, laundry sweeping, fixing the hinge, each one a small way to quiet her thoughts. The town seemed lighter. Strangers stopped her to thank her or bring pie. Their kindness felt awkward, like a coat that didn't fit. Jonas came by most afternoons, sometimes with groceries, sometimes just talk. His limp had eased, though his movements were slower. They spoke less of the past and more of the practical appointments, baby clothes recipes they'd never make. While shelling peas on the porch, he asked, "You ever think about leaving Mariposa?" "Every day," she said. Then I remember I wouldn't know where to go. Maybe it's not about where he said dropping peas into a bowl. Maybe it's just about moving forward. She looked toward the misted hills. I used to think forward meant starting over. Now it just means living without looking back. He nodded. That's enough. Children's laughter drifted from down the street. A nearby radio played an old tune about holding on and letting go. After he left, she stayed until dusk. The scent of lilac lingered. An unopened letter sat on the table, official stationery from the Attorney General. She'd avoided it for days, knowing it marked the end of everything. She tore the envelope and read the case closed. Lowell Holdings, dissolved families, compensated her testimony, no longer required. At the bottom, we recognize your courage in assisting this office. Without your actions, justice would have remained buried. She folded it neatly. Gratitude felt heavier than accusation. Rain came again the next day, soft, steady. She made pancakes burn the first batch, laughed, tried again. For once, she ate without waiting for something to go wrong. After breakfast, she brought out the shoebox from under the counter. The map-old notes clippings all covered in dust. She laid them out. The red X that once marked danger looked harmless now. She packed everything away except one photograph she'd found months ago, 3 minors at the claimed faces, dirty but smiling. On the back, a single word, home. She taped it near the grocery list and calendar. It wasn't a memorial, just a reminder that lives once lived still mattered. Later, Maggie called. The network wants a follow-up, she said. They want to know how you feel now that it's over. Evelyn laughed. Tell them I feel tired. That's what everyone says at the end, Maggie replied. But they'll want to know what comes next. Next is normal, Evelyn said. And that's enough. Good answer, Maggie said. She watched the rain taper off cars passing toward the highway. The hills held more stories than anyone knew, truth sleeping under the soil. That evening, Jonas arrived with a box of tools. Thought I'd fix that porch step before it gives out, he said. Always fixing things. Somebody has to, he said with a grin. They worked until the sky dimmed. When the last nail went in, she handed him lemonade. You ever think about reopening your shop, she asked. Maybe. Might name it after my late wife. Feels right. She'd like that, Evelyn said. He studied her face. You've got the same look she used to after a storm, tired but peaceful. Keep it. I'll try. For weeks, she had been waiting to feel something like joy, but what came instead was a soft gentleness. Steady, persistent, more real than happiness. Maybe that was what healing felt like, she thought. Not grand, not clear, just enough to keep moving. The kettle whistled. She poured tea, steam curling and vanishing before reaching her face. Carrying the cup to the porch, she sat in the rocking chair, its rhythm matching her thoughts. A letter from the county still lay unopened on the table. Another form, probably. For once, she felt no urgency to open it. Closure, she realized, didn't always arrive with noise. Across the street, Mrs. Carter hung wet laundry, humming an old tune. Evelyn lifted her cup in greeting. The woman waved back. Jonas came by around noon carrying apples and a small tin of paint. Figured you'd want to start the nursery. Eventually, she said, laughing softly. I've been putting it off. Then today's the day. They carried the paint into the spare room. The space smelled faintly of cedar. Light fell across the floor as they worked the edges in slow strokes, saying little. After a while, Jonas said, You've been different lately. In a bad way, in a calm way. Like you stopped running. She dipped the brush again. Maybe I just got tired of looking back. He smiled. That's how people sound when they start living again. When the color began drying unevenly, they stopped. She leaned against the wall watching the pale blue spread across the room, imperfect, but enough. Thanks, she said as he packed his tools, for staying through all this. You'd have done the same. After he left, she sat on the floor, tracing the trim with her hand. The baby kicked once, firm and sure. We're almost there, she whispered. By dusk, the room glowed softly. She brought the rocking chair in from the porch and set the music box on the shelf above it. Its hesitant melody filled the house as she washed the brushes. For a moment, she thought she heard another step behind her, an echo of what the house used to hold. Then it passed. The stillness that followed wasn't empty anymore. Later, she walked down the road. Fields were blooming again, wildflowers scattered along the ditches. The scent of rain and soil hung faintly in the air. She remembered driving this same road months ago, headlights cutting through fog, running from everything she didn't understand. Now she walked without hurry. Each step pressed lightly into damp ground. A dog barked once, then fell silent. At the end of the path, an old fence leaned under a crooked for sale sign. She smiled, wondering who might come next, what they'd build. The clouds broke apart as she headed home. The sky turned pale. She thought of the miners' names on the courthouse plaque, of Grant's voice, of the fear that once filled every room. None of it seemed heavy anymore. Some pain she realized didn't vanish, it just took up less space. She folded laundry, set a pot of stew on the stove, and let its warmth fill the kitchen. The radio hummed the same cracked-voiced singer, finding the refrain again. When she sat to eat, the letter still waited. She opened it at last, a brief notice. All proceedings closed, no further action required. She folded it neatly and slipped it into the shoebox beneath the counter, then smoothed the photo taped near the glass. 3 miners smiling under the old sign. Crickets began their chorus. She rocked gently in the chair, hand resting on her belly. The baby moved again, a reminder that something new waited just ahead. When the music box slowed to silence, she let it rest. The tune faded into the hum of night, and she stayed there, breathing steady, letting life settle where fear used to live. By late summer, the courthouse hearings had ended, and Mariposa found its rhythm again. Evelyn volunteered twice a week at the library, shelving returns and reading to children. The ordered calm soothed her. No one there asked about the past. Jonas stopped by, often fixing up the old hardware store one aisle at a time. When she asked about business, he said slow but steady, same as healing. She smiled. The limp lingered, though he never mentioned it. Most afternoons she walked home from the library along the creek path, a small bag of groceries swinging at her side. The shallow water slipped over smooth stones, its rhythm steady and companionable. One day a thick envelope arrived from the state. Between laundry folds she opened it. The first page confirmed Lowell Holdings' dissolution. The next listed names, those indicted or under review. Some she remembered, others she didn't. At the end was a note: your cooperation was instrumental in exposing financial misconduct and safety violations. The case will remain public record. We thank you for your integrity. She stacked the papers, finished folding, and opened the house to let in fresh air. The distant hum of a mower drifted from down the street, no longer startling. Later, she mailed a brief note to Maggie. I think it's over now. Thank you for believing me before I did. The postal clerk smiled, asked when she was due. Any day now, she said, laughing as he offered to carry the parcel. People seemed kinder lately, or maybe she'd learned to see it. Jonas waited on the porch when she returned, newspaper in hand. You made the front page. Her name appeared beneath a headline about the final ruling: whistleblower mother-to-be symbol of truth. That's a lot for one person, she murmured. They needed a story, Jonas said. You gave them one. I didn't mean to. Most who change things never do. They sat a while watching a truck pass. The porch boards were warm beneath their feet. Evelyn scanned the last paragraph. Recovered assets from Lowell Holdings will fund restoration of the Sierra Claim Memorial and aid families affected by the disaster. Guess that's justice, Jonas said. Quiet, she answered. Almost invisible. The best kind, he said. When he left, she lingered, the faint tune of the music box drifting through the open window. The melody no longer sounded sad, just worn peaceful. Next day, the sheriff brought papers finalizing the return of her belongings. Hat in hand, he said, You did right, ma'am. Folks won't forget. She thanked him, signed, and watched his truck fade down the road. Birds scattered from the line as he passed. She placed the documents in the drawer with the map and photographed the shoebox, now a quiet record of everything endured. Closing it felt like finishing a story. Light stretched across the kitchen floor. She brewed tea, wiped the counter, called Jonas to remind him about the crib. He arrived before sunset, carrying it with care. "Did it myself," he said, a little proud. "It's perfect." They worked in the nursery until the last bolt tightened. The blanket waited on the chair. "Looks like a home now," Jonas said. "It does." He paused. "When this started, I didn't think we'd make it." "Neither did I, but we did." She smiled faintly. "We did." Jonas knocked around 9, a paper bag of groceries in hand. "Brought breakfast," he said, "and coffee strong enough to wake the dead." She smiled. "You're too good at this." "Don't say that," he replied, unpacking eggs and bread. "I like being useful." The smell of toast filled the room as they moved easily around each other. Months of fear had worn down into something steady and familiar. "You heard from Maggie?" he asked. "She sent a postcard from Sacramento," Evelyn said. "The memorial fund's rebuilding homes near the old site. They're naming a library after the miners." "That's something," he said. "It is. They'll be remembered right this time." They ate without hurry. The baby stirred and whimpered until she touched his back. Jonas smiled. "He's got your calm." "I doubt that," she said. "Maybe he just doesn't carry what I used to." After breakfast, they stepped onto the porch. The sky was clear air, sharp with early autumn. Across the street, children chalked hopscotch squares on the sidewalk. Evelyn leaned on the railing, the baby tucked against her arm. Jonas looked toward the hills. "Hard to believe it's been less than a year." "Feels longer," she said, "like another life." He turned a dry leaf in his hand. "You think about what comes next." "I do, but not the same way. I used to think next meant fixing everything. Now it means tending what's still here." "That's enough." Later, he helped her carry boxes to the shed. The old shoebox stayed in her hands. She opened it, map photograph, torn clipping, and closed it again. "You ready to let it go?" he asked. "Almost. I'll keep it here for now. Someday he might ask where he came from." Jonas nodded, needing no more. By afternoon, the yard smelled of cut grass and paint. She planted flowers along the fence he'd repaired, fingers pressing into the cool soil. The motion felt like remembering how something new could grow from what had been buried. Jonas watched her work. "I used to think healing meant forgetting," he said. "Now I think it's just remembering differently." She looked up. "Yeah, remembering without it hurting so much." They stayed outside until sunset. He left with a promise to bring tools next week for the porch swing. She fed the baby and rocked him in the chair, humming a tune without words. His small hand gripped her shirt until sleep took him. She laid him in the crib and watched a while, the room faintly scented with soap and paint. Streetlights flickered on beyond the glass. The newspaper still lay on the counter. She flipped to the back page, a short piece about the final hearing. The attorney had said justice isn't an ending, but a correction setting the story straight so life can go on. She folded the paper and set it aside. Life was already going on in every small act, washing bottles, tending flowers, hearing the low hum of a town she once planned to leave. The kettle clicked off. She poured tea, added honey, and stepped onto the porch. The boards were cool under her feet. Across the street, the Carter's porch light glowed faintly. Somewhere near the creek, a dog barked once. She sipped slowly, warmth spreading through her chest. The baby shifted inside but didn't wake. For a moment, everything felt suspended, the kind of stillness that came when the world was finally in place. She thought of all that had been lost and rebuilt, not just in town but within her. The edges of grief had worn smooth, leaving room for something gentler. Not joy, but peace shaped like it. A breeze carried the faint scent of lilac through her hair. The rocking chair behind her creaked as the wind nudged it, the same one that had been her refuge through the storm. She let it move. The rhythm blended with the hum of crickets and the far whistle of a train. The tea cooled in her hands. The baby sighed in his sleep. Evelyn rose, checked the blanket, brushed a strand of hair from his forehead, and turned toward the hall. The house was still not empty, just settled. She left the door open a crack and walked back to the kitchen where the kettle waited to be washed. The faint clink of porcelain met the steady sound of her breathing. The night held.